इयं विसृष्टिर्यत आबभूव यदि वा दधे यदि वा न यो अस्याध्यक्षः परमे व्योमन्सो angam veda yadi va na veda. It is my honor to welcome one of India's foremost thinkers and public intellectuals, Dr. Gautam R. Desiraju. A globally renowned structural chemist, Dr. Desiraju is a former president of the International Union of Crystallography and one of India's most cited scientists. But beyond the lab, Dr. Desiraju is a powerful civilizational voice, articulating India's identity not just as a nation state, but as a living, breathing civilization. His recent book, Bharat India 2.0, challenges the conventional narratives and lays out a bold, uncompromising vision for India's future. In today's conversation, we turn to Dr. Desiraju not just for insight, but for strategic clarity. As ceasefire unravels and illusions collapse, how must India respond? Is it with hesitation? Is it with purpose? To address all these questions, Dr. Desiraju, thank you for being on the show. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you, Hemant, for these kind words of introduction. I am pleased to be with you again and looking forward to our conversation.
Sounds great. All right. So the first topic of our conversation, the first section of our conversation is about the failure of diplomacy and quote unquote illusion of ceasefire. You know that we've tentatively agreed, have a mutual understanding. I'm not sure if it's a ceasefire, but we have a mutual understanding of a ceasefire. Now, as far as the optics are concerned, how should India counter Pakistan's propaganda, declaring victory despite suffering major military losses? We've seen with evidence, but they claim that they've destroyed 10 different. They've attacked 26 different cities across India, and all these hyperbole they have. How do we address that?
So, I'd like to also clarify to the audience that this is not a ceasefire. Ceasefire has different implications. I think it is just a understanding, as you say, and a cessation of military operations till today, 12th. Today is 12th of May, and the military personnel from both sides are to meet today to see if a common ground can be found so that tensions get lowered. There are many interpretations of these words now: ceasefire, operations, military.
Cessation.
What has been made clear, we shall come to that later, is terror being now identified with the Pakistani state and the Pakistan army. You have asked about more a propaganda issue. And let me tell you about this: Pakistan or Pakistanis, especially Pakistanis living abroad, will never stop this kind of propaganda. This morning I saw a humorous post which says that we should also put some posts and say that all our nukes are hidden below the Taj Mahal and Pakistan has bombed the Taj Mahal. So I think this is the way, in fact, we should counter all this with humor, so that the whole world, which is now standing with Pakistan, will start laughing at Pakistan. India is well capable of standing alone. You lead by standing alone. I do not need the support of any white man. No, I don't. Because I feel strong enough, because we have gone this far with, Atmanirbhar made equipment. We have shown that we are masters of AI in the way in which we are able to fabricate or refabricate or remake older equipment to be a sufficient deterrent against the Chinese and the Turkish and, I dare say, the US armaments that Pakistan has. They were neither able to stop our stuff from going there and hitting them where it hurt. And at the same time, no major military installation or for that matter civilian things in the Indian side were destroyed. Yes, there was artillery shelling in the LOC area, but that is bound to happen. And this is unavoidable. And this has always happened in the past. So this is what can be called collateral damage from either side. But coming back to the issue of propaganda, it is convenient for the West to support its client state. Because Pakistan was in the end a creation of Anglo-American interests. It was not because of Jinnah or the Muslims. They wanted that artificial state, and unless and until it is clear to them that that state is completely collapsing or collapsed, they will not stop supporting it, and the propaganda will continue. Already they are saying they have won the war and all that, but just saying something doesn't make it true. You can say everything. On the 14th of April 1945, I think when President Roosevelt died suddenly in Palm Springs, Georgia, Goebbels rushed to Hitler. 14th of April 1945. That is exactly 16 days before Hitler's suicide, when the Russian guns could be heard in Berlin. He rushed to Hitler and said, "My Führer, this is a sign that Germany is going to win the war because Roosevelt is dead." So you see, people can be in a state of utter delusion. And I would say that every Pakistani today is in a state of utter delusion. Let us also remember that this 3-day war, I'm reminded Israel 7-day war. So we have done a brilliant thing in the 3-day war. How many things we have turned around? We have shown that Chinese armaments are actually halka, like most things made in China. I can go and buy myself a computer adapter for 700 rupees here in the company. I can buy the same thing made in China for 100 rupees. But the shop guy will tell me that even if it stops working 10 minutes from now, I won't take it back. So you buy that equipped Chinese stuff with a risk. So today, any third country, when it wants to start buying military equipment, will it really go to China? Already I am told that Vietnam wants to buy BrahMos missiles from India. So you see, this China is probably angry now because its military equipment has shown to be basically halka. Now, both the US, because all this will affect it bears on your question about Pakistani propaganda. The US also has got egg on its face. In the case, this is the third ceasefire that Trump has declared. Trump has called it a ceasefire. We have not called it a ceasefire. Indians do not think this is a ceasefire at all. What happened to the Ukrainian ceasefire? What happened to the Gaza ceasefire? The war went on, and the war will go on. And the war is not decided by some immigrant Pakistani sitting in a basement in Toronto and tweeting hate stuff against India. The war is decided by totally different things, which I am well sure that, the very important thing that India has said now, that this whole operation was only about terror. It was not about taking territory. That will come later. Fine. Till now, Pakistan was going with a narrative that we don't know anything about these terror camps. There is no such thing as terror. And the Pakistani state and the Pakistan army was saying that we don't know anything about all this. As a result of the 3-day war, we have now established what I am going to call in future the Sindoor Doctrine, like the Monroe Doctrine. India will not respond to terror. It will prevent others from engaging in terror. And there's a very important thing in all these official communiques. One must read between the lines. The Indian government position is very clear. It says terror from anywhere. So if a group in India is committing acts of terror, India will take it as a declaration of war by Pakistan. Imagine this. Suppose an act of terror is committed in any place in India and it is linked to Islamists. The Indian government will take it as an act of war by Pakistan. And when it says act of war, then please remember, Hemant, that the army is immediately called to take action. Any action. So India has now set the ground rules for South Asia. Any act of terror committed within the Republic of India, and by that we mean the whole of undivided J&K, will be considered an act of war.
Dr.
So we have really
Desiraju.
raised the stakes, and we have also told, effectively what Trump has got himself into the silly position that he has made himself the guarantor of Pakistan's good behavior. And I'm sure he doesn't enjoy this too much, I'm sure. Yes.
Yeah, if I may interject, see, true, we may be losing the propaganda war for the time being. Propaganda, it's just propaganda. But propaganda has ears. To an extent, Donald Trump and others in the administration, US administration, other countries have ears as well. In fact, I've been watching, I mean, maybe a funny take. Many of the Pakistani commentators are saying that the Chinese technology overcame Rafales and all the Indian technology that they have. Well, we should encourage them to buy more Chinese stuff.
Yeah, you can do it in whatever way you like, but
Yeah, yeah,
on the whole, I feel you are over exaggerating the importance of this propaganda, perhaps because you live abroad. Let me be
possibly,
frank.
possibly.
Because many of us in India are completely unaffected by this. If you look at the joint military briefing yesterday evening, it was thoroughly professional.
It was. It was.
And already, if Vietnam wants to buy BrahMos from India, the Indian economy will go up and the flagging Chinese economy will go down. China may be far ahead of India in many ways today, but certainly not impossible that India overtakes China in due course of time, which is not very far off, because these things change very quickly. As I said, a Pakistani living in Leicester or Leeds, huddling in his basement and putting out hate speech against India is not going to change a single thing in India or the government of India. He can say whatever he likes. Because, and if the Americans and others are going to believe that narrative, the BBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and so on, well, all good wishes to them. They're welcome to go ahead, because actually it doesn't affect us. Because we too know that America needs us too badly for trade purposes.
Absolutely.
And America needs us too badly as a counterfoil to China.
I
This
think
is
it
an
goes both
excellent
ways.
opportunity, Hemant, for India to play the card between the US and China. This is the way
True.
one should really look at it. And finally Pakistan is now, I'll say it's not even a country. Actually, it's not a country. It is simply a kind of an experiment done by the West to serve their geostrategic interests. As long as they feel that they can use Pakistan to irritate India, they will do so. The moment they feel that India is not getting irritated, they will cease to do so. And this war especially has shown that India is not scared to hit back. And by equating the Pakistan army, the Pakistan state, that is the civilian government, and the terror people as one and the same. Lashkar-e-Taiba has got 1 million members. A Muslim friend from Srinagar told me, I told him, I said, look, 23 terror camps have been identified. He told me that if you tell me that there are 2 lakhs terror camps in Pakistan, I will believe it. He said every house there is a terror camp, because these people have been indoctrinated for the last 30-40 years to hate India. More specifically, let me be blunt, to hate Hindus, and about this Ghazwa-e-Hind business. In this regard, I want to also mention an extremely important development on Friday. I'm sure you've heard of a place called Deoband in Western UP. It is one of the heartlands of Sunni Islamic theology.
Sure.
The person who set up various facilities in Balakot in the 1800s was sent there from Deoband. So along with Deobandi school and Barelvi school, these are the main theological platforms in Sunni Islam, from which the Wahhabi Islam came as a subgroup. So Deoband is extremely important theologically for all subcontinental Muslims. There's no doubt about it. On Friday, the chief imam in Deoband has issued a fatwa to be read by all the imams in the 40 lakh mosques on the Friday noon prayers, which is, as you know, the most important prayer of the whole week in Islam. And the fatwa was very simple. It says that every Muslim in India should henceforth consider Pakistan as an enemy, and that we should stand by India in this war. Now, please see the significance of this state. So it is one more narrative of Pakistan that has got busted. That they can somehow rally around all the 600 million Muslims in the subcontinent in some huge Ghazwa-e-Hind against the Kafirs and kill all of them. And if you see the sudden change in behavior of somebody like Owaisi, who is now sounding more RSS than the RSS, you can see that there is a tremendous change in public perception in just 3 days. Because now it is hitting everybody that militarily we have achieved a great deal simply in being able to tell Pakistan that the smallest infraction it does in terms of terror will be met with a over disproportionate reaction from it. And the US, again, as I said, has egg on the face, because now there seems to be circumstantial evidence that we have shown that their nuclear facilities can be hit by us.
Got you.
Because we bombed that place which was their chief, site of their nuclear thing. So we have shown now that unimpeded our aircraft can go and fly there and destroy that place completely. Now, this is something that the US does not want at all. And considering that it was one of the parties who actually facilitated the arrival of nuclear weapons in Pakistan, now it has to, as you sow, so shall you reap. And one further thing, let me say, before you ask your question. Somebody else has written correctly today that Pakistan was considered the madman of the subcontinent in terms of using nuclear weapons. He says now India has got this enviable status. We are the madmen of the subcontinent who will not hesitate to use our weaponry to destroy their nuclear facilities completely, even if there is the smallest terror incident in it. So now the West has to fear India rather than Pakistan. And what will the West do? Immediately they will go and tell Pakistan what they were telling all of us today, till now. No, please accommodate India because we don't know when they may come and bomb all these places. You see how subtly Modi has changed the game so that now Pakistan will be told to be reasonable because we are the mad. It's a good status to have, because war, please remember, is a psychological game.
Absolutely.
The purely military, in fact, boots on the ground, which will be required to take over parts of Punjab or Gilgit-Baltistan and all that. That is one of the costliest forms of war. These forms of war, which we are indulging in, what is called cognitive warfare, is much, much cheaper. And in the modern world, it is now being seen that it is much more effective. We should not compare the situation with World War II too much, when huge land armies were sent to fight each other at tremendous cost in terms of human blood and facilities and resources and all that. A few well-aimed punches in a few well-aimed, well-chosen places using all the modern gadgetry and artificial intelligence will get you much further than the kind of conventional war. So I would say that you talk about Pakistani social media and disinformation. I think Indians also, mostly abroad, should stop talking so much about let's get back Gilgit-Baltistan, let's get back this, let's get back that. The military has clearly said that POJK is not a strategic value because most of the hardcore Islamists, Punjabis, are there in POJK. Although it must be said that many of those Muslims, Punjabis, have said that if India moves into POJK, they will all run away to Pakistan. And look at the phrase that they have used. Run away to Pakistan. That means they know they are not in Pakistan. They know they are sitting in illegally occupied land. Otherwise, they would not use the word, we will go away to Pakistan. Because if they felt that POJK was part of Pakistan, they would not make a statement like that. So one must look at Freudian slips like this to understand what the thinking is. So, this is a rather expanded answer to your question in social media, but I don't think you should really worry about it.
See,
it's immaterial to the whole discourse and where the
sure,
thing is going.
Sure. I think propaganda is only going to be successful in the short term only. Not in the long term, facts are facts. We have successfully proved that we were able to make their air bases, useless.
See, what the BBC says is not God's truth.
True. That's agreed. Now, tell me something. As you said, we did some well-aimed punches. We've downed some buildings, some infrastructure, for sure. We hit where we needed to hit. At the same time, what was the goal of Operation Sindoor? Was it to root out terrorists, or was it to just do some well-aimed punches and then get back? It just seemed like we were ready to do some well-aimed punches at different terrorist infrastructure across the boundary and come back and say we've done it. It's like we are just taking step by step. It's almost like in the previous terror attack we attacked a particular terror compound and we destroyed that terror compound. Here more terror compounds were aimed at. Now, to really aim, what was the original aim of Sindoor? Was it to just avenge, or was it to do something in the long term that is going to help the country?
Thank you. Vengeance can never be a reason for war. First, terror was identified as a target. But please remember, in a country with 2 lakh terror hubs, knocking out a few of these will simply mean that others are put in their place. And 6 months later, the whole thing will start all over again. The origin of terror is not those terror camps, but the Pakistan GHQ in Rawalpindi, the headquarters of their army.
Agreed.
What the 3-day war has shown is that the power center of terror is the Pakistan army, which is why the facilities of the Pakistan army were targeted on day 2 and especially day 3. We have eliminated the existing terror camps. Fine. We are also well aware of the fact that even the runways and other things that we have destroyed will be rebuilt in a few months. And we are also well aware of the fact that even in some understanding or cessation of military operations, countries only sign these things when they are in a position of weakness. And they will rebuild themselves and they will break these agreements a couple of years down. So I think we are very sanguine about the fact that Pakistan will break all these agreements. But the difference now is that the moment they break it, we go back to US, which is the guarantor of their good behavior, and say, now look, they've done exactly what we thought they would, so now we are going to go for it. We will escalate to the next step. So this always keeps a country like India in an advantageous position. There is no question of going back. Where did we go to go back? We have not encroached.
We'll come back. We'll come back after, I guess.
No, come back from where?
Come back after.
We've already gone ahead in terms of showing China that it is helpful.
Yeah.
We have shown the US that it may be so-called very powerful, but finally the president is a bumbling idiot who doesn't know what he's talking when who is he to declare a ceasefire between India and Pakistan? Nobody.
Yep.
And probably in private conversations, we don't know what they have. But he too knows after Ukraine and Gaza that this may be done something to get himself some personal popularity. It's not clear to me. But how many people will listen to all this? Because everyone, even the BBC, knows that Pakistan will do something crazy tomorrow. By and large, from India, I will say some of the leading podcasters and so on, is that India has won huge strategic victories on all sides,
Absolutely.
including economic victories. Definitely our economy is going to go up because people now realize that you can call it jugad or whatever you want. But jugad in the hands of Indians is a very powerful weapon against military weapon against the most sophisticated of things made by USA, France, and other places. Because it worked when it had to work. And the evidence is there. Now there are too many videos that have come out of places in Pakistan that have been destroyed. And it will take them a long time. They can rebuild the airfields and so on. But they cannot refabricate those destroyed planes. So it takes about a year or so to get a plane again operating in working conditions. So it's going to take them some time. And don't forget, we have not stopped the Indus water. And yes, I know what the detractors will say. You are simply releasing the water because it's a rainy season. And yes, we have to do that. But believe me, if you know the Indian government, they will already be feverishly developing projects to divert the waters of the eastern rivers completely to India and to give as much trouble to Pakistan from the western rivers. Of that there is no doubt. And China too is very much worried about the Indus Water Treaty being held in abeyance. Even here, one must distinguish between abeyance and abrogation. Abeyance simply means that for the time being, we are not going to do anything. Why is China worried? Because on the Mangala Dam and all those places, is a major source of electricity for China, and Pakistan is depriving itself of electricity by sending hydroelectricity from those upstream Indus dams to China. So China knows that it's in big problems if India gets more aggressive. And now knowing India, the new Bharat, these are not the Congress years anymore. I think they have all become painfully aware of this fact that India will act only in its own interests. This is another thing which should not be lost on Indian NRIs who are following your program. What is terror is what we define as terror, not what the BBC defines as terror. That I have to make it very clear. The Indian army, the Indian government have decided that you may call it whatever you want. You may call it Alice in Wonderland also. You are living in La La Land. If we think something is terror, we will consider it an act of war by Pakistan, and we can even cross the international boundary at that. Because then war is war. So far, Indian government has not used the word war. And if you look very carefully at the declaration, it says any event of terror after Pahalgam. It doesn't consider Pahalgam under this condition, although it was an act of terror. After Pahalgam. People must look at all these wordings very carefully and not just jump to some conclusion and say, Pakistan has said we have lost the war, so we have lost everything. We have lost nothing.
I have no challenge there. That.
No, but you started your interview with a question on social media. You have said that we are losing in social media.
Propaganda, not social media.
I can lose in social media. I say I want to win the real war there. Absolutely. I don't care what the social media says.
Sure, I'm just trying to address.
Who is so worried about what other people think of you will never be a winner in this world, in individual life or as countries.
Understood.
Hitler, Napoleon, Stalin, Churchill. They never cared what others thought of.
So one thing. Leaving that aside, is there a cost of restraint? What is the long term? What is the long term price India pays?
This is not restraint, This is not restraint at all. We have punched them on all sides where it hurts. We have told China. I'm repeating to the point.
But aren't we in an advantageous position?
We have told China that its weapons are useless. We have told America that it can no longer be the policeman of the world. We have. When you sign a loan paper, somebody has to guarantee the loan. No? USA has put itself in that dirty position of being a guarantor of Pakistan's good behavior. Tomorrow, if Pakistan behaves badly, we can straight blame the US and say, come on, your fellow is not behaving himself, so we're going to attack him. And you can't do anything about it then.
Absolutely.
Please see strategically how India has played the game. We have lost nothing. Pakistan has lost everything. It can hardly stand on its 2 feet now. And also I am told, again, this is all only from the public things that are coming out, that the IMF loan or so-called loan of 2 billion, which will mostly go to pay creditors in the West. Pakistan is hardly going to get any of that, by the way. So it even got that by being forced to come to this table today on 12th May. They said, you better go and listen to the Indians and follow their conditions, otherwise you're not going to get this loan. So for all the Pakistanis who said that we won because we got the loan, that's bullcrap. I will use bad language because the world has come to a place where it is better that at least people who are not connected with the government or who are independent observers can use bad language. Because
like
as what we said, if the enemy is behaving badly, you should behave worse. This is what Chanakya said. See, we don't now start saying apostle of peace, Mahatma Gandhi. This is not the time to talk about that.
See, I just want to address the general feeling that people have. I'm just trying to.
People will have, see, we are 1.4 billion people. As what Naipaul said, is 1.4 billion mutinies.
Sure.
Everybody will have. What is 4 people? Naal per ennu solluvanga. Is a a familiar Tamil saying. What 4 people say is immaterial to a country at war. We are at war. Okay, you forget all the other languages that are being spoken. India is a nation now at war. It's war of different types. War no longer means boots on the ground. In fact, boots on the ground, as I've said earlier, is one of the most expensive ways of conducting a war. That will be done at the very last step. When everything else has failed, then you will see boots on the ground. You will not see it before that. Notice the way, and I would urge people who are listening to this program, notice the way we have pushed in from all sides. Do you think we are going to stop in Balochistan? No way. We're going to give them even more help. You think we are going to stop our good relations with Afghanistan and the Pashtuns? No way. So you see, we are hemming in that country from all sides. Go back to Sun Tzu. You know what he says? All of us have read that book. Beautiful 65 pages. When you are 10 times stronger than the enemy, you surround him. When you are 5 times stronger than the enemy, you attack. When you are 2 times stronger than the enemy, engage in limited skirmishes. When you are weaker than the enemy, you run away from. So India is today 10 times stronger than Pakistan. That's why we have surrounded it. Only if we are 5 times stronger, we need to attack it. We don't even need to attack Pakistan. It will fall under its own contradictions. I think this is what our strategic military planners, politicians, 100% marks to them. The way they have thought this whole thing out and avoided emotional responses. Let's get back GB. Let's take Lahore. I mean, do you understand?
No. That is
Lahore, I mean,
foolhardy.
Militarily, our fellows have told us that we can take Lahore, which is hardly 18 kilometers from Attari. We can take Lahore. But what will we do once we take it? See, it's a big problem. It's not something that one can just say happily sitting in the comfort of your living room. Let's take Lahore, let's take GB. I mean, there are real problems and it's probably better. And again, Sun Tzu says, the best kind of war is where the enemy destroys itself. You're not even needed to go and destroy him. But make no mistake about the fact, in all my comments, Pakistan is the enemy. China is a bigger enemy. America may be a neutral friend, marriage of convenience for the present. I won't go any further.
Understood. How do we make sure, now it is established that we've gained an advantage.
Excuse me?
An advantage, a big advantage over the long term in terms of surrounding Pakistan and in terms of making sure that Pakistan pays. Now,
yes,
we are using Indus water as well as a way to punish them if needed.
Yes.
Now, having said that, how do we make sure, there is a fear also that Pakistan, if it falls apart, there might be consequences for India as well.
Yes.
How, for example, the nuclear arms that Pakistan has. How do we ensure that the nuclear arms don't fall into the wrong hands? I know that sooner or later, there is this problem of disintegration of Pakistan that is upon us. And so how do we make sure in the long term, how do we secure their nuclear arms?
Well, yes, so it's certainly a question. And I think we have to look at Ukraine for precedence, because at the time when the Soviet Union broke up, there were lots of nuclear facilities in Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan was not a problem, but I think Ukraine was a bit of a problem. I think the question of Pakistan's nuclear assets will then have to be decided by a triumvirate of USA, China, and India. And there has to be an orderly way in which these assets are basically neutered. Since we don't know anything obviously about what's going on inside, I wouldn't be surprised if the US is already working on that possibility. Because in many senses, it is responsible for Pakistan becoming a nuclear state. Because they were so upset when Vajpayee conducted Pokhran that hardly within a few months in Chagai Hills, they exploded something they couldn't have, even with that doctor stealing those secrets from the Dutch lab. I don't think they could have assembled something like that so quick. So clearly the US and possibly China helped them to some extent. And it is something that they will have to face. It's not India's problem. And I'm sure that there is already thinking on those lines. It's impossible that they are not thinking, because this disintegration of Pakistan, it may happen in 1 year, it may happen sooner than that, it may take 3 to 4 years, but it's definitely happening. Of that, I think China and India, as far as they're concerned, is China and USA. As long as Pakistan can be used as an irritant against India, they will keep some. When they realize that that's not going to happen or it's impossible for them, then I think they will simply abandon. And in the meanwhile, India is not going to keep quiet. I mean, imagine if Balochistan were to declare itself independent, which may be very quick. Then it's a huge blow for China, America, mostly because their carefully constructed artificial country is now coming apart. And these things, like if you recall the breakup of the Iron Curtain, the moment Balochistan goes, then KPK will go next quite soon. After that, you are just left with Punjab and Sindh, and who knows what Sindh will do. And there is also a ethnic rift between South Punjab and North Punjab. In South Punjab area, which is called Sarakhi area, they don't consider themselves, they feel that the North Punjab people are dominating them. So bit of that Sarakhi region may stay with Punjab, part of it may go to Sindh. There are some Hindu districts, 3 districts in eastern Sindh, Umarkot and, Kokrapal and all that. They may well, try to come into India at that stage. So I think much of this, while still remaining in the realm of prediction and possibility, it can actually well happen in a couple of years. So I feel that this is proceeding in a natural, organic way towards the breakup of Pakistan. I don't think anything will be able to prevent this. Various big powers like India, China, USA will secure their economic interests if such a thing happens. Because finally, in the end, Hemant, all these adversarial relationships and all are rooted in economics, not in politics.
Absolutely. So maybe with this, we can end this particular session. This is a wonderful, illuminating lesson for all of us. It's a lot of people right now are thinking that there is a failure of diplomacy and illusion of ceasefire, but in the long term, it is not so.
Not at all.
Dr.
Very far
Desiraju
from the truth. It's been really nice chatting with you about this on a topic of immediate relevance. And as I told you, you have posed so many interesting questions to me. And in keeping with the main theme of your podcast about the civilizational aspects, but since those civilizational aspects are not going to change in 24 hours, I suggested that we defer them to what I hope will be a future interaction with you in the not so distant future. And by the time we have, you have sent 4 or 5 sections, and I think we basically addressed only section 1 today.
Section 1 today.
All your questions are very, very nice. And they also form the basis of some of my thinking today, what I'm actually writing. I'm writing practically 1 article a day in various Indian forums about what I call the Sindoor Doctrine. This is what I want to call it.
Absolutely.
So it is a very powerful name for the new Bharat. And if you take Bharat in the civilizational sense of Bharatavarsha as being part of a bigger Bharatakanda, then the Sindoor Doctrine, I think, marks a signal turning point when instead of responding to events, India will make events happen, make history happen. So suddenly India, through this 3-day war, has shown itself that it is fully entitled to be a major power in the world. And it has happened in a peculiarly Indian way. Think about that. The fact that we used, one of the guns that was used to stop those F-16s was a 1940 vintage gun, which we have redeployed using AI and all these things today. So Jugaad, you can laugh at Jugaad, but Jugaad in the hands of this Jugaad country is a very powerful weapon. And it is high time the reductionist West realizes that there are alternative approaches to success, even in military warfare, which is rooted in our civilizational consciousness. Because one of the things that a civilizational consciousness teaches you is the value of time and the value of patience. These are things that patience is not something that the reductionist West is very good at. They want immediately, quickly, very fast. Cause, effect. No, no, no. From
Yeah.
cause to effect, you can go through 100 loops. And we have the patience to go through those 100 loops. And I am also, like every analytical person, I am also beginning to change my thoughts slightly. Till now, I used to think that the Chinese are ahead of us in many ways because they too are civilizational, but they have managed to catch up economically. Now, suddenly, over the last 3 days, I'm not so sure. I don't think they are that advanced civilizationally compared to us. They are trying, probably, they're getting the worst of both worlds.
I think we should talk. We should have a separate topic and discussion on China itself. It will be a really interesting discussion
Definitely. Because as George Fernandez said many years ago, China is our major enemy.
Yeah.
At least in the next 25, 30 years, it is our major enemy. Beyond that, I think it will actually become a friend. But I think for the next medium term future, I think it is our major enemy. So yes, we must talk about China and so many interesting things, Hemant, that's happening now. So I hope that my comments would at least be useful or at least worthy of discussion and debate among our Bharatiyas who are living in America and Canada.
It will
And
surely
to say
make,
that
if not anything.
at least I feel extremely confident. And unlike some people who have written books saying that we are 8th grade citizens in our own country, I feel that I am a first grade citizen of a first grade country living in that first grade country. So I could not ask for anything.
If not anything, I think it will force people to think about things, and maybe it will help them understand that there are things beyond what their immediate topics of discussion are.
Yep.
Because civilizationally we have a lot to progress, and we will in time we will. And sometimes I feel bad that I am not there watching India while it is progressing, but it's what's in your fate is in your fate. That's all I can say.
Thank you,
All right.
Hemant. It's a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.